All right, my loves. Hello and welcome to our Leap Action Debrief, where we're going to go through and kind of unpack what it is that you learned through your Leap Action. And so you want to make sure that by the time you are doing this module that you have in fact completed a Leap Action. If you haven't, you need to go back to phase 2, make sure you know your Leap Action, plan it, complete it, etc. And so this is, you have just finished your first Leap Action and we're here to debrief. But first, we got to celebrate because you have done something that scared you. You have done something to get out of your comfort zone. You have put yourself out there in a way that stretched you and you're playing bigger and all of these things. You're making progress. You are doing it. And this is so important for you to acknowledge and to celebrate no matter what else is coming up along the way, because it doesn't matter how your leap action turned out. It doesn't matter like what you learned or not. The most important thing is you did it. You did something that scared you. You did something out of your comfort zone. And that is huge. And that is something deeply worth celebrating. So make sure that you take a moment to acknowledge yourself, share how proud you are of yourself. I think everyone here is in the Aligned Career Collective. So jump into the collective, share your win, that you're proud of yourself. This is a really big moment. And I want you to really celebrate every piece of the journey, especially something like this. And now, once we have celebrated, we want to get into just kind of the details. Like, how did it go? You're going to have a workbook where you're completing all of this, but I want to walk you through some of this first, and then you can jump into the workbook. Or if you want to pause, do the workbook alongside this, that's totally okay too. But how did it go? So what did you learn from completing this leap action? Really detailing out what are the pieces of clarity that you gained? Like, what did you learn about like what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, something that you didn't expect, like how people reacted to it? There's going to be clarity that you gained from this. And so you want to be sure to take notes of like, what is that? What is that information that you got? And then checking in with how you felt throughout this process. This is supposed to be something that took you out of your comfort zone. And so tune into that. Like, what parts made you nervous? Where did you feel like you just didn't want to like press submit or press play, or you wanted to cancel? Like, what parts made you nervous? How did you handle that fear? And what did you notice about fear through that process? And if you can identify like, oh, I noticed I was really scared of rejection, or I was really scared of like not getting something perfect, like be sure to go back in through like the mindset monsters part of the modules and dive into the fear that you kind of uncovered through this process. What about it energized you or drained you? Paying attention to your energy is so important as you go through, because your purpose is something that gives you energy. It makes you feel alive. It's an energy source. And so if you're doing work that energizes you, that's a really strong sign. And then whatever is draining you, you really want to pay attention to that as well. So how did it go? Write all this down in your workbook. And then we want to, with all the information, the learnings, the clarity in mind, now it's time to think about what's next. What is your next right step? And before we go into practical things or details or whatever, I want you to first just pause and check in with your intuition. What feels like your next right step? You can bring this to an intuition workshop. You can do the practice of writing to your intuition that you have learned through the intuition workshops. But I want you to take this and really tune in. What is your next right step? And we'll go through a couple different examples, some of the things that might happen. Maybe you need to design another leap action to answer another question. Maybe you need to pivot your path entirely, or maybe you're ready to commit to one path. So let's talk about sort of different things that could have happened as you went through this leap action process. And so maybe what happened is it's a hard no, right? Like you don't want to continue on that path. This is what happened for me when I was like, I made my travel blog and I was publishing articles and I was like, I really just don't want to be a travel blogger. This is not something I want to continue. After doing several blogging posts and like sharing them with people. It's just like not what I wanted. But what happened is through this process, there was a new desire that emerged. I realized I do like writing, and I like writing about personal growth more so. And I really like the idea of coaching. And so let me follow that and tune into that more and see if I wanted to have more interaction with people. I didn't want to be behind a screen just typing and blogging all the time. And so yes, a new desire emerged for coaching, for more one-on-one interactions. So let me start following that, right? Another thing you can start asking yourself, let's say like there's not a new clear desire that emerged. You want to also get really clear on like, what did you learn about what you don't want? Those are important pieces of learning. Maybe you thought you wanted to work remotely, but you realized you're lonely. And so maybe the thing is you want to work remotely, but you want to have like, you want to be at a co-working space, or you want to have other entrepreneurs around you and you want to be with people. Or you want to have like a solid social interactions planned out into your day that don't revolve around work. So there's going to be things that you learned about what you don't want from this process. And really important for you to know this, because this can feel discouraging, right? If you try something and you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Like I had a client who her thing was to do like this informational interview and like talk to somebody and in pharma, and she talked to them and she was like, no, I really don't want to do that. And that can feel discouraging, but I want you to really hone in on this. You are not starting over. You're not back to the drawing board. There are things that you are taking away from this process. You're further ahead now than you were before. And so I need you to remember that and maybe even write down like, what is the evidence that you're further along now? Like, what are the things you've learned? So that's why I have this. You want to turn the nope into hope, because it's okay. There is still hope. Don't be discouraged. You're not starting over. It's really, you got to look at this from a sense of you're gaining so much and you're always winning and you're always moving forward. Okay, so that could be one thing that happens. It's all good. Another thing that could happen is that you want to continue on the path, but just like more casually. So I had one client who she did this and she wanted to be like a voice actress. And so she recorded a poem for an audiobook website. And she's like, yeah, I really like it, but I don't see this as something I want to do like professionally at the moment, not really for a career, but she wants to keep just playing around with it. And so she kind of starts to put it more in a hobby category. And she did want to keep exploring it, but just not like for a full-time thing. And so that could be something that happens. That's really great too. Now you've discovered a passion. You've actually tried something out that you've been thinking about for a long time. So there's so much to celebrate here. And then the next thing you want to ask yourself is, are there any other desires that are emerging right now that you want to test out, that you want to follow? What else is coming up for you that you're feeling pulled towards? And then another thing to think about, sometimes there's a practical element as well, is like, well, I kind of need a career direction. I can't just play around with hobbies. So do you need a way to make money that gives you space to kind of pursue your hobbies and interests? If so, I recommend going into the Bridge Job Accelerator, which will walk you through how to really choose a bridge job, how to land a bridge job that also gives you the space to kind of explore your passions. So that's something else that could occur. Great. These are all good. Everything's good because you're one step closer to where you're going to go, right? Everything is such good news because you get so much information and you're moving right along. Okay. The other thing that could happen is you're gung-ho. You're ready to continue on this path, jump into the deep end. So you loved it. Maybe you could see yourself like dedicating yourself to this path, turning it into a business, turning it into a career. And if that's you, great. You're ready to move on to the next module where we create your structured plan. So like that's pretty straightforward if that's you. If that's not, that's okay too. So let's go into what are some of the sticking points at this phase? What are some of the things that people are really struggling with at this point? Because really what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to narrow it down. We're trying to narrow it down into one thing that you want to follow, that you want to devote yourself to. It doesn't mean that it's the only thing in your life. It doesn't have to be all consuming, but we want to make decisions about what our new career path is and like what we're going to do. And so some things that can keep you from making that decision, maybe it's that you have just like so many different ideas and you don't know which path to commit to. And what I will say for this is it doesn't matter. You can just pick one. There's not a right or wrong. You want to just tune into like what feels like you're being pulled towards it, what feels the most alive for you right now. And honestly, just pick one. And it's almost like the leap action, but a little more extended. Like pick one, start committing to it, and you're going to find out sooner or later if that was the right choice or not. But you can't find out anything if you don't do anything. Like if you're just sitting there overthinking, you will not find out anything. And so if you have all these different ideas, I would just like remove the pressure of trying to get it perfect or, get it right off the bat, and just which idea feels the most alive for me right now. Let me start with that one, and go from there. Because what you need really right now is you need aliveness, you need energy. And so whatever's going to bring you that's going to move you in the right direction. If you feel like, okay, well, I know this is what I think I want. I have this one path, but I'm just not sure it's going to work out. Again, you can't know until you try, right? Your mind is trying to predict. You're trying to like predict and control for any uncertainty. And I get that because that's how we have been trained. But this is something you want to go into and look at the fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty module. That will be helpful for you. But the truth is, we can't know that it's going to work out. There's not a way to know until you try. And so you want to kind of work through the doubts, work through the fears. But the thing that matters is not, is this going to work out? It's, do I want to try this? Is this something I want to try? That's the more important question. It doesn't matter how it's going to end up. It just matters if you want to do it. And so if the answer is yes, if the answer is this would be so interesting, I would love to do this, you have to start there. And if you need a way to make money in the meantime, and you want to obviously do this in a way that's financially safe, then again, get a bridge job. Go into the bridge job accelerator section, find a way to make money. Like that's not the part that matters. It's not like you don't want it to be that whatever you're trying has to make money immediately, because then that creates a lot of pressure. So get a bridge job, give yourself time and space to see it through, and just give it a try. And you'll know once you try, like once you get started. Another question people might have is like, how do I translate this into a career? And so maybe what they're going through here is it just feels vague still. It doesn't feel like you have enough clear direction. Really, this shouldn't be the case, because the leap action should have been like a clear and just like the first hypothesis should have been clear enough. The leap action should have been clear enough. Like it should, at this point, it should already be forming into a career direction one way or another. But if you're still feeling fuzzy or confused, then you want to just design another leap action that can help move you closer to clarity. Like what is it that you're confused about? What are the questions? Something you can ask is like, what do I know about how I create value in the world? What do I know about that? Wherever you're creating value, there is a way to receive money in exchange for that value. And so that can help more clearly guide you towards what that looks like in a career path, and like how that would translate into a career. You can also revisit Purpose Pixie, which is something that gives you career ideas from what you know so far. So you can go back and revisit that. So there's a few different things you can do to just have more clarity on that. But really that shouldn't be a problem at this point. And if it is, I think the bigger problem is that there's some kind of something in the way of like, what is your definition of career? Or like, what is it that you're trying to translate? Like there's something else kind of going on if this is the thing that you are struggling with. And what I want to say through all of this, because basically the answer to everything that I just shared above is develop a bias towards action. Develop a bias towards action. Decide that failing fast is better than being paralyzed and learning nothing. And the like asterisk here is intuition-led action, because I don't mean that we're taking a bunch of frenzied, hustly, busy action, but it's more those bigger leaps. Like those are not things that they take up a lot of time or energy. It's really just, it takes courage more than anything. And so develop a bias towards this intuition-led action, and you're going to fast track yourself to so much clarity, and you're going to move along so much more quickly. And just notice when it's the fears that are keeping you from taking action. Usually if you're feeling stuck, if there's something you're like, yeah, if you're feeling paralyzed or like you don't know what action to take, usually it's just fear that's getting in the way. So I would visit the fear modules and go through that, but develop a bias towards action. And then what the next module is really like milestone 3, which is creating that structured path for what's next. And so you need to be at a certain place in order to create your plan. And so how do you know when you're ready for that? Well, one, you could just start watching the module and be like, oh, nope, not here yet. That's one way you can try. But really, you're ready for milestone 3 when an idea has formed for a career path that you're excited about. And that could look like, the field that you want to work towards. Maybe you want to do health tech or medical writing or interior design. You've identified the field that you want to like get a job in, or you have an idea for a business that you want to start and you know the general type of business. You might not know, like, let's say you want to go into coaching. You might not know what your niche is, but that doesn't matter. You want to coach people, even just coaching, like that's fine. That's what you know. So you just general type of business. You want to start an event planning business of some kind, or you want to start hosting retreats of some kind. You don't have to know super specific, but you want to that you want to start a business and you have a general idea of what it is, right? So if you have all of that, you're ready for the next milestone. And essentially what you want is the idea is well formed enough that you can create a goal around it. So that's what we're going to be doing as we kind of finish up with milestone 3 is we're setting your sights. We're creating a goal. We're calling your shot. We're committing to something. And with that goal, then we're creating a plan around it. And so you do need an idea that's well-formed enough to create a goal. And going through that process in milestone 3 will help you identify the goal. You don't need to know it right now, but it's possible you get to that milestone and you're like, oh, I don't have enough to make a goal yet, and that's okay. We can kind of work from there, but this is where you want to be by the end of this module, and then you want to get back to milestone 3. So your homework is, I know this was a lot, really what I'm doing here is just kind of going through the workbook. So I walked you through this right now, but now you want to take this and do the workbook on your own, which is going to walk you through all of these things. So you're going to fill out the workbook, debrief your leap action, and from there, you're going to determine your next course of action. So it's either do another leap action, start searching for a bridge job, or continue on to milestone 3. So those are kind of the 3 main things you want to think about. All right, my love, I am so excited to see you in the next video, and yeah, enjoy doing your workbook, and I will see you there.